This video focuses on a new topic, engineering excellence, which means best practices us programmers follow to make life easier for ourselves and other programmers. So by practicing engineering excellence, you are an excellent engineer. We have made a lot of classes in our Pokemon project so far, like a lot of them. This has made our code kinda hard to manage, so we really need to look into what we can do to make our code more discoverable, readable, and maintainable. When you are writing code, you should have a plan about what you want to do. We made the rookie mistake of just kind of coding out what felt right at the time and improving on it as we went. And don't worry, because even senior engineers with 500 years of experience make this exact same error all the time. And after a dozen engineers over a few years all make these small mistakes here and there, it starts to add up, and code that started readable is now convoluted and messy. This is what we call tech debt, and part of every engineer's life is paying off this debt through work. We look at our code and we see clear areas of code that should be grouped and aren't, and things that are grouped but shouldn't be, and some ugly old methods that don't really make sense in the modern world, even if they made sense at the time when we wrote them. All of these are great examples of tech debt that are low-hanging fruit. Simplify code, better group code, etc. And this kind of code is like paying off your mortgage, something you just do on a regular basis, but doesn't take too much thought. We aren't replacing the roof or anything drastic, so let's just look at our project, which is included in the description, and just have a chat about what we think might be some good stuff to improve. And if you're curious about my suggestions, or have some of your own, include them in the comments below. Now, if you've been following from the start, you may have noticed small tweaks I have made here and there already, like switching the type from a string to using the enum in our Pokemon class. This is a great example of that low-hanging fruit. Something that uses our code that was added over time to go back and make improvements to older code. Now, what else might be a good example of this? Well, we left our types kinda empty, so let's pause here and add the other types. And if you aren't sure what they are, I included a link in the description. Now that we have all 18 types, we are ready to make more changes. Well, a Pokemon always knows its type and its name, right? So why do we need to take those in the constructor for specific Pokemon? We have guaranteed values, only the level is variable. So let's just simplify that by reducing our constructor to taking only one value, level, and pre-populate the other two with their known values. Again, we have a lot of them, so you can either skip this step or pause and do it yourself. And now we might have noticed it's been a pain to constantly hunt down the specific classes we care about. They're all just in this massive list, but they seem to have some similarities. Well, we can group our Pokemon together in a new Pokemon folder, and our evolvable trio of interfaces could go in a folder. There might even be more in the near future, like a friendship evolvable. And we have enums, so let's group our enums together for now too. Wow, that is way easier to read. Now, after moving all of our files around into new folders, you might have noticed some errors pop up. That's perfectly normal. When you change where a file is located, other files kind of lose track of it. So you have to kind of go back into them and re-point to where they actually are now. Files that are at the same level as they used to be already know, hey, you're my brother file, I know where you are. But when you go into a new directory or a new folder, then you have to re-point to that more specific one. So if we go into one of our Pokemon, we can just go to the top and do import enums.types, which then points to the enums folder and the types file in the enums folder. And then the error goes away. So you're going to have to repeat this for all of your files if your IDE didn't do it for you. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But we can go a step further. So far, we've only fixed issues that have already existed. But we now know this only solves problems from the past. That means we might create more tech debt if we aren't careful. So let's try and get ahead of it now. Right now, we have all of our Pokemon in one folder. What kind of long-term issue might show up based on the number of Pokemon? Well, since there's almost 900 of them, that's gonna be problematic. So think about how you might want to further break down these Pokemon into smaller chunks. For this, there's definitely more than one right answer. What I'm going to do is separate by generation first. Then, once I have each group in their own folder, I notice that most of the Pokemon I've made so far is generation 1, which means we probably need to break down our Pokemon even further. There are 151 Pokemon in Gen 1, which is the second most new Pokemon after Gen 5, so we need to be very thoughtful about how we want to break down such a large number. Well, what if we split up by route? Well, some Pokemon show up in multiple routes, like Rattata, on Route 1, 2, 22, and a couple others. Okay, well, what about type? This works pretty well. Water might be a bit heavy loaded, but it should be pretty evenly split. But what about Pokemon with two types? Okay, Dex number. National Dex works really well, 1 to 898. And we can do batches of about 20, and if it's an evolutionary group, we can do small adjustments here and there just to keep them together. But regional dexes. Alphabetical. Now, do you remember the name of all the Pokemon? Good luck going between evolutions when names can change drastically. Now, we could go on for hours listing strategies, pros, cons, etc., and that's some of the complexity of programming. Trying hard to find the least bad option because we live in an imperfect world. So choose whatever you want that you're comfortable with and will understand. I'm going to go with National Dex number because it makes sense across games and keeps evolutions together, barring cross-gen evolutions. And to try to get ahead of the curve, we're going to go ahead and do this for all of our generations. Or just copy my finished code if you like my idea. Now we don't need to worry about adding those folders as we add new Pokemon to new generations. We just go to the right folder and add it. And now that you've refactored your code at least a little bit, you now know why we try to account for things before we start making it, to make sure we can go at least a few months without making tech debt payments to stay above water. Don't worry, there's still plenty of tech debt left to address and even more that we'll add as we go. But now we've gotten ahead of at least some of it to minimize the amount of debt we accrue as we go. Like, subscribe, and comment below what you want to see next or topics you'd like to know more about.